Right now, deep in the Siberian interior, a freight train 2 kilometers long is rolling through a black forest in the middle of the night. Outside the locomotive's windows, the air sits at minus 40 degrees Celsius. The closest town is over 200 kilometers behind them. There's no highway shadowing these tracks, no phone signal, no lights of any kind, just an ocean of frozen trees stretching further in every direction than most people can honestly picture. And at the front of all that rolling steel, in one small heated cab, sit the only human beings within 100 kilometers of here, the train crew. A full crossing like this takes days. And for nearly all of those days, the men in that cab are on their own. Not alone as in solitary Russian locomotives run with 2 people, a driver and an assistant. Alone as in, if something breaks out here tonight, nobody is arriving anytime soon. There's no recovery truck, no mobile workshop, no warm building within walking distance. There's you, your partner, 2 kilometers of frozen freight, and a forest that hasn't climbed above minus 40 in weeks. So, how does anyone actually do this? How do you eat, sleep, stay warm, and keep thousands of tons of train moving across the coldest inhabited region on the planet? Climb into the cab with me, because almost nothing about this job works the way you'd expect. First, you have to understand what minus 40 does to a railway itself. Out here, the cold isn't only hunting the people. It hunts the machine, and it hunts the track underneath the machine. Start with the rails. In deep cold, railway steel loses its patience. Metal that flexes harmlessly under summer traffic turns brittle in hard winter, and brittle rails can crack, and a cracked rail beneath a loaded freight train is about as serious as railroading gets. So when the deep cold locks in across Siberia, the whole railway changes its behavior. Trains slow down, speed restrictions appear. Drivers read the line ahead with different eyes. And scattered along thousands of kilometers of track, in tiny section huts lost in the wilderness, there are people whose entire job is to walk the rails, patrolling their assigned stretch on foot. In darkness, checking the steel by hand and by eye, in air where bare skin freezes in minutes. It might be one of the loneliest professions on Earth, and outside of Russia, almost nobody has ever heard of it. Now the locomotive, and here's the fact that stuns everyone who learns it for the first time. Through the deep winter, on the remote diesel-powered sections of the Siberian network, the engines are essentially never shut down. Not while waiting at stations, not during crew swaps, not even parked in a yard for half a day. The engines run continuously for weeks. The reason is simple and slightly terrifying. At minus 40, a diesel engine that goes cold may refuse to ever wake up again, or at least not without a full day of desperate work. The oil thickens toward sludge and stops flowing where it needs to flow. The diesel itself begins gelling into wax. And the water in the cooling system? It would freeze solid and split the engine block open, the way a forgotten bottle splits in a freezer. So all winter long, across yards and sidings from western Siberia to the Pacific coast, there's a sound that never stops. The deep, patient rumble of locomotives idling through the months of cold. Out here, cutting the engine doesn't save fuel. It executes the locomotive. Inside the cab, that always running engine is also what's keeping the crew alive. It feeds the heaters that hold their little steel room at livable temperatures, while frost creeps in around the window edges. Drivers describe the winter cab the same way. Over and over, a small warm island a few square meters of survivable air, sliding through hundreds of kilometers of air that would finish an unprotected person before sunrise. And the crews provision that island exactly the way sailors provision a ship. Because that's genuinely what this is. Food for days, packed into lockers, bread, tinned meat, instant noodles, and tea, always tea, because on the Siberian Railway hot tea isn't a pleasure, it's practically part of the operating manual. A kettle or a compact stove to make it. Serious Arctic clothing stowed within reach-insulated boots, fur hats, mittens layered over gloves, even though every man aboard hopes he'll never have to put it all on. A complete toolkit. Lanterns, and one commandment drilled into every railway man from his first winter: no matter what happens out there, you do not leave the train. The train has heat. The train has fuel. The train has a radio. The forest, in every direction, has none of those things. Sleep works differently on this railway too, and it's the part almost nobody ever wonders about. On a multi-day crossing, the two men in the cab rotate the controls in shifts. The one on duty drives watching signals bloom out of the darkness and speaking each one out loud, in the old Russian railway discipline where every signal is named, called, and confirmed by voice, so that nothing, ever, slips past unnoticed. Meanwhile, the other man rests behind him on a fold-down bunk at the back of the cab, with the engine's rumble rolling underneath him like an enormous slow heartbeat. And here's what the drivers say, almost word for word, what the truckers in our other videos say. That vibration becomes the finest sleep of their lives. The engine is white noise. The rhythm of the wheels over the rail joints, that endless ta-dum, ta-dum, rocks the whole locomotive like a patient cradle. No phones. No traffic. No neighbors. Just warmth, motion, and the quiet certainty that your partner is awake at the controls 3 meters from your boots. Then, at a division point, somewhere down the line, a fresh crew climbs the ladder into the cab. The tired pair heads to a railway rest house for real sleep in a real bed, and the train itself simply keeps rolling. Because across Siberia in January, the men rotate, but the train never truly stops. And the crews aren't completely abandoned out there, because this railway fights winter with machinery most of the world has never seen. After heavy storms, dedicated snow-clearing trains sweep the line, hurling white walls of powder off the rails. Specialist teams work the switch points with heaters, because one single frozen switch can strangle traffic across an entire section. And in the division yards, workers move between locomotives through the whole night, keeping brakes and couplings from freezing solid. In winter, this railway isn't a piece of infrastructure. It's a front line staffed around the clock by thousands of people whose names the outside world will never know. But between the stations in those long black gaps of 200, 300 kilometers, all of that support might as well exist on a different planet. And that's the real thing that separates Siberian railway crews from nearly every other transport job on Earth: the margin for error. Think about what a minor problem means out here. A brake line frozen somewhere down 2 kilometers of train. A heater acting up in the cab. A frost-heavy tree dropped across the rails. On an ordinary railway, these are annoyances an hour's delay. A phone call. A repair van. Out here, at -40, 200 kilometers from the nearest town, every small failure carries the same silent question underneath it. Can you solve this before the cold stops being the background and becomes the emergency? That is why the assistant driver exists. That's why the toolkits are complete and the food lockers are full. That's why every crew can name every section hut and every siding on their stretch of line from memory. And it's why, when these men describe their work, they don't reach for driving words at all. They reach for the sea. The forest is their ocean. The locomotive is their ship. And their rules are the sailor's rules, unchanged in 100 years. Respect the environment, maintain the machine, and never ever assume tomorrow will be gentle with you. And yet, and this is the part I genuinely love, ask these men why they stay in this job, and the hardship barely comes up. They talk about the mornings, coming around a long curve at sunrise with 2 kilometers of train trailing behind you, and watching the tiger glow pink under fresh snow all the way to the edge of the world, knowing that no other human being alive is seeing this exact view. They talk about the northern lights on clear nights, burning so bright above the line that the snow itself turns green, They talk about the silence at the tiny stations, that same deep Arctic silence the Canadian truckers describe, where fresh snowfall swallows every sound on Earth. And the only thing left to hear is your own train, breathing. One veteran driver from the Baikal region said something I haven't been able to shake. In the city, he said, I'm one man among millions. Out on the line at night, I am the only light moving through 1,000 kilometers of darkness. You tell me, which one of those sounds lonely? So the next time you see the Trans-Siberian Railway on a map, that thin line running 9,000 kilometers across the top of Asia, remember what that line really is in the middle of winter. It's a chain of warm, humming cabs sliding through the coldest forests on Earth, each one carrying two men, a kettle, a stocked food locker, and a century of hard-won winter knowledge. The supplies that keep entire Siberian cities alive travel down that line, and they arrive because these crews keep moving through weather that keeps everyone else indoors. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever ridden the Trans-Siberian or any train through real winter country? And here's the question for everybody: be honest with yourself. Could you do this job? 3 days in a small cab, -40 outside the glass, 200 kilometers from any help? Drop your answer in the comments, because I read every single one. If you enjoyed this journey, hit like and subscribe for more stories about the people and machines that keep the world moving through impossible conditions. Because next time, we're driving onto a highway that shouldn't exist, roads built entirely on top of frozen lakes, open just 8 weeks a year, where truckers listen to the ice cracking under 40 tons, and keep driving anyway. Stay warm out there, and I'll see you down the line.